If you've been having trouble defeating Yagluth, or if it's your first time going up against him and you just want to be more prepared, I've got you covered. Hey everyone, I'm Shattuck, and today we're tackling the most important strategies for defeating Yagluth, specifically if you have a party of 2 or more. My wife and I and our dear friend Sean have defeated Yag twice now, and we've learned some really valuable lessons along the way, and we wanted to share them with you. Luckily, the last time we defeated him, I was streaming, so we captured the entire process. Even though we've done this twice now, and we knew what to expect the second time around, we still made mistakes, and I still ended up dying even though I had everything at my disposal to stay alive. So view this as a lessons learned, and hopefully you can learn from our mistakes so you don't make them too. And what I'm going to do is replay the stream with you, and I'll comment on the footage as we watch it together. So let's jump in. The first thing I want to cover as we start is how we outfitted ourselves. The type of gear we brought, the weapons, the food, the armor, all of it. And just bear in mind that our choices are certainly not the only way. There's lots of great strategies for taking him on. This is just what happened to work for us. So first off, let's talk meads, right? Particularly fire resistance mead. Yagluth deals a lot of fire damage. Every one of his attacks involves burning, so you're going to want to bring a fire resistance mead for each member of your party. I would say a minimum of 2 each. The other thing that you should bring with you is a stamina mead, either a medium or a minor. Don't skimp out on supplies. Next, let's talk powers. So if you're going in with a party of 3, I would highly suggest that a couple of your party members bring bone mass. Bone mass is great for taking on a lot of damage. Kind of turns you into a little bit of a damage sponge. Bone mass will definitely help you resist a lot more damage than you would without it. So have at least a couple of your party members equipped with bone mass. Another good one to have for your 3rd member is Eikthyr. So Eikthyr is going to help you with stamina. You'll be able to jump and sprint without using so much stamina, and that's going to be great, especially if your 3rd person is going to be doing long-range attacks with a bow. Stamina obviously is going to be a huge component for all members of your party in this fight, but especially true for someone who's going to be fighting at long range. Next up, we have food. This is kind of dependent on what role you're playing. You could have one member of your party, as I said earlier, be stamina heavy. You could have your other 2 players be more of like health tanks, so bring lots of health heavy foods with you. We brought a lot of bread, onion soup, lox meat pie, serpent stew. Don't skimp out on food. Bring your MVP items. Next up is weaponry. Yag is resistant to fire, and he's very resistant to pierce. And by the way, he's immune to poison. So if you've got that special bow that deals poison damage, it's not going to do you much good for this fight. He is, however, weak to frost damage. So this means that weapons like Frostner will deal some serious damage to Yagluth. Frost arrows will help, even though he's resistant to pierce. You will, however, be able to inflict about 50 points of frost damage per arrow. Definitely put somebody with good long-range skills to work, because if they got a crap ton of frost arrows, they'll still be doing a serious amount of damage to him. Just make sure that they're well equipped for the fight. If you have 3 or more in your party, have at least 2 people focusing on dealing close quarters damage with clubs or swords. Pole arms are going to be less effective because of the type of damage they do, but you know, they'll still chip away at his health, so don't discount them. As for armor, there's a few different armor choices that are good for this fight. Surprisingly, one of them that is actually great to take for this is Fenris armor, because of its fire resistance and the amount of speed that it gives you. If you got the full set, you're able to move quite a bit faster, so you can dodge his attacks more effectively, and the fire resistance is a huge plus for this fight. Next up is wolf armor. So wolf armor obviously is going to be a heavier set. It's going to affect your movement speed. It's not going to be fire resistant, but it is a very good armor set, particularly for this kind of fight where you're going to be potentially taking on a lot of damage. But if you've got the resources for padded armor, that's a great set of armor to take for this fight. Padded armor should be at your disposal by this point, so bring your A game for this kind of fight. All right, so let's jump right into it. I'm just starting the footage from our fight against Yagluth the other day. We set up a portal pretty close to the battle site, but one thing you'll notice as we come to the portal here and we're getting our gear together, getting things ready, you'll notice that we actually built a little hideaway near his spawn point so that if we happen to get killed by him, we set a spawn point right next to the battle so that we could respawn within very close proximity of each other in case we died, and that did end up coming in handy. We did a lot of groundwork, quite literally, ahead of time, just to kind of prep the field a little bit. One thing that's actually really handy to do against Yag is to prep a lot of the ground ahead of time. We ended up, as you can see here, we put up a lot of ground walls to hide behind. Those are particularly useful when he does his long range attacks. So those will come in extremely handy. You can also see that we actually cleared out a little bit of the surrounding ground just to make it easier to navigate. We flattened out some of the terrain. And here we go. We're summoning Yag right now. One thing that you can do is as he spawns, he's going to come up out of the ground. So you can actually get some free hits on him as he comes up out of the ground and spawns. In this particular case, I missed pretty much all of my shots here when I was trying to get in up close and personal. You'll notice, if you rewind a little bit, you'll notice that we actually equipped bone mass right before we summoned him. So that's a great strategy to use. Make sure that you have bone mass equipped with at least a couple of your party members, like I said before. I start out by just kind of sending in a few volleys of frost arrows. I think we all started with more of a long range attack at first, just to kind of pepper him a little bit. You can see, obviously, we ate our good foods beforehand, and yeah, that's one of his longer range attacks. That long range attack that he just sent out against me is really powerful. Make sure that you've got those fire resistant meads at your disposal and ready to go. I actually don't think at this point I've taken mine yet, so please make sure that you do that. So that other attack that he just did, you see my friend Sean there, he actually was being burned after Yag did the attack. So kind of a delayed effect. If you stay within proximity of that attack, even after he's already done it, you will still be damaged by it. So stay out of that blue flame when you see it, when he does that type of attack. So here we go. By this point, I've actually finally equipped my fire-resistant barley wine. That's a great one to have. You can see I'm starting to go into the blue smoke here and I'm being burned, but the good thing is that fire-resistant barley wine is really coming in handy. It's lowering the amount of time that I'm burning by a significant amount. There's that long-range attack that he does again. That one is really powerful, so make sure that you have good speed and stamina to dodge that type of attack. You will also notice, as you can see here, that fuelings like to come and join the fight. So maybe have your long-range person kind of keeping an eye out for those types of little attackers that like to come in and ruin your day. It's very easy to get distracted just solely focusing in on Yagluth, but definitely watch out for the little guys because they can ruin your day pretty quick if you're not paying attention. You'll notice that Yagluth has a series of 3 different types of attacks, and they're all fairly predictable. You just need to learn what actions he takes prior to doing that type of attack. And what I mean by that is watch out for the predictors, watch out for those characteristic moves that he does before launching an attack. He'll raise one arm up really high, usually prior to each attack, besides this one. So this is his laser beam attack, the one I've been talking about. That one he won't raise his hand for. He actually rears his head back like you just saw. But for the other 2 attacks, he'll raise his hand up. Honestly, he does give you quite a bit of time to get out of the way. But if you're like me right here, making kind of a mistake, I had low stamina. I spent a lot of time going in close quarters combat there and kind of suffered for it. I couldn't get away fast enough. You'll notice that we're chipping away at his health fairly decently here. There's that large attack with those meteors that come in. Those wreak a lot of damage. So you can kind of predict where they're going to come from. Typically, he'll launch them in the direction that you're attacking him from at the time. So it's usually not too hard to get out of their way, but sometimes they'll land further away than you think they will. So when he raises his arm for that type of attack, try to get away in time. That's another thing that is really useful for clearing out the ground ahead of time. If you can level the playing field, quite literally level the ground, it helps you get away from his attacks. You can see that we did a pretty decent job of leveling off the ground. Obviously there's some curvature to the ground still, but clearing the land really helps you be able to get away cleanly and just kind of escape those heavy attacks. When we first got to the site, there were a lot of stones in the way. There were just a lot of barriers that would have slowed us down. We just got rid of all of those and really just made it a much more clean, easy to see playing field. That's a mistake I made right there. So I sprinted in, jumped in, used a lot of stamina prior to going in for that attack. Make sure that you give yourself lots of stamina. If you're going to be going in up close and personal, you want that extra stamina prior to going in for those attacks. Otherwise, you might get stuck underneath them. There's that large hand raise. Here come the meteors. You can see I did a pretty good job getting away there. Had plenty of stamina to use to get out. I got away pretty clean. You can see my Frostner weapon is dealing a lot of damage to him. He's already almost half health. And here I didn't do a very good job. I actually came in behind him during a meteor attack. It's a wonder it honestly didn't lower my health quite a bit more. One thing that you really want to keep an eye on, I cannot stress this enough, please watch your timers. Watch that resistance timer, watch that bone mass timer. If you've got bone mass or ether equipped, please make sure you're keeping an eye on those timers. And keep an eye on your rested timer. That's one thing I didn't mention at the beginning of this. Make sure, just like any other boss fight, before you start it, make sure you go in well rested and that you have the highest rested perk that you can possibly get prior to going into the fight. So we've got him down almost below half health now, and we've just been using the same strat. We've got one person on long range shooting frost arrows, and Sean and I are going in up close and personal. Sean is a little bit disadvantaged in this fight because he's using a pole arm, so he's not dealing as much damage. You can see actually he's picked up a sword, so he's able to deal a little bit more slash damage, but his primary weapon that he's highest skilled in is a pole arm, so he didn't have a great sword skill, so it wasn't working out to his advantage too well. If you can, try to go in with weapons that you have a high skill in. You'll be able to deal a lot more damage. I should say you'll be able to deal damage efficiently if you go in with a weapon that you're highly skilled at. Here we go. Great round of close quarters combat. We're getting out of the way just in time before that attack comes in. Yeah, we're on fire, but that fire resistance mead is really helping quite a bit. It's honestly saving our lives right now. Otherwise, that fire effect remains active for a lot longer. You can see we've got about 2 minutes left on the clock for the resistance timer, at least for myself. We all took them at roughly the same time. That's definitely one to keep a close eye on. All right, so we've got him well below. He's almost just about a quarter health left. We've been slowly chipping away at him. Sean and I have been going in close quarters combat. All right, you can see bone mass is no longer effective. The timer expired, so now we're a little bit more susceptible to damage. We're not able to soak up as much damage as we were before. Look at the amount of damage that Frostner does to him. That's incredible. He's really susceptible to frost damage, so keep that in mind. So we just lost our third party member. My wife went in, tried to get a little too close, got burned up by one of the meteor showers, didn't have that mead equipped. It's about to get me in less than a minute too. I wasn't paying attention to that fire resistant mead. I was so focused on taking him out because he's almost dead. It's really easy to do when you're just so laser focused on beating the boss. All right, I'm gonna pause right here. What's the problem that you see with this picture? Look at that top right corner. I don't have any power equipped, and I no longer have my fire resistance mead equipped. This is where things go south really quick for me. Like I said before in the beginning of the video, you want to have at least 2 of those fire resistance meads equipped per person. They last quite a long time. They're very generous, but just make sure that you have them equipped. All right, so now we've got Ether equipped. That's great. So it's going to help us out with stamina, but I still haven't paid attention to my fire resistance. I'm at full health. I've got a pretty decent amount of health. It's not great. It's not terrible, but I'm not going to be able to have any kind of fire resistance right now. I'm not using Fenris armor. I'm using padded armor. My friend Sean was wise. He went in with Fenris armor, so he had some fire resistance already, even without using any kind of mead. And here we go. Look at my health. Absolutely cascaded down to 0. And Sean just died too. So even though Sean had the Fenris armor and he had that fire resistance, he still got it. So the one benefit here is that we had those beds with our spawn points set, and we had a little chest with some food. We're able to grab some food and get back into the fight pretty quick. It saved us from having to go, spawn all the way back at home and come through a portal again and run there to get all our stuff back. It really helped that we had that little house ready to go. Thankfully, in this case, I was able to get over to my stuff. He was kind of distracted with one of our other party members. I went to my tombstone, got my stuff back pretty quick. At this point, he is almost gone. Just a few more hits left and he'll be defeated. So in this case, I've done something right. I took another fire resistance mead, so I'm going to be able to withstand most of his damage. Still took a pretty good hit there. My health went up pretty quick simply because I had just eaten, and that effect was still at play for all 3 foods. So just bear that in mind. The timing of when you eat is important too, and he's about to be defeated. There we go. We got him. Just bear in mind, even with all that prep work, even with all that good armor, good weapons, good food, all 3 of us still died. You can have a perfect formula down. This is our 2nd time defeating him. There's no perfect way of doing it. You can go in and be as prepared as you can possibly be, but it doesn't always work out in your favor. So hope this was helpful, guys. Hope you were able to walk away with a few extra tips and pointers on how to take him out, and we'll end the footage there. So there you have it. Yag's been defeated. We had great weapons. We had great armor. We had great powers and abilities. We had a good strategy. We did a lot of prep work beforehand. We raised ground walls. We set up a little house with beds for spawn points. We set up a portal nearby. We set up a chest with food in it just in case we died. And hey, big surprise, all 3 of us still died. So that just goes to show you can have a perfect plan, but sometimes Murphy's Law just takes effect. I would say a good takeaway from this video is pay attention to the little things. It's easy to get distracted just trying to bring that health bar down as fast as you can, but watch the timers. Make sure that you equip things as close together as you can between your group so that you know when your timers are, so that you can be consistent. Go in with your best food, go in with your best weaponry, go in with your best armor. Try to balance out how your roles are being distributed through the team so that everybody has their job and they know what to do, and be as prepared as you can be. So hopefully this video was helpful. Hopefully you guys have something to take away from this, learn from our mistakes. If this was helpful at all, I would love it if you guys subscribed, liked the video. It's so helpful. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Shattuck. I'll see you next time.